is the starting and upcoming podcast I got teamed up with Brian and Frank. We're going to be discussing latest situations involving video games and entertainment. I hope you enjoy our very first podcast. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about it. Once again, thank you for sitting at my table. Enjoy the podcast. I'm gonna be starting a podcast. We're gonna be talking about different situations dealing with games, whether it comes with political views on video games or when it comes to bad reviews on video games that we happen to love. We're gonna be hitting all those topics, so make sure you put your opinions down in the comments, and by all means, keep it respectful, please. That's all I ask. Keep it respectful, because everybody's gonna have different opinions. We gotta respect it, whether you like it or not. And one of the topics I really wanted to discuss at first hand is, do protagonist deaths matter in a video game, and does it kill storylines and legacies concerning certain trilogies that we happen to fall in love with? And I know a lot of people are going to touch up on this because it has been diverse in a lot of video games we love, okay? But nothing comes to light as much as The Last of Us when it comes to this controversy. And I know the individuals on my podcast right now have also been in discussions with people about this topic, and we all know what happened to Joe. We all know what happened in that situation, and a lot of people hate it. A lot of people don't like the fact that the protagonist was removed. A lot of people believe that the game is over because Joel is removed. A lot of people think that Ellie is not big enough to carry the load, which I definitely disagree on, but I can understand their feelings. What do you guys think? Drano.
Basically left a sour taste in people's mouths when it was abruptly brought to our attention that he was going to die right then and there. So early on in the game without even touching him again. So honestly, it's one of those where in this situation, I don't think it kills The Last of Us story. It actually enriches it. And also, if people were paying attention, I'm just going to say my point here. Joel's death was basically the cycle of revenge, what happens. Joel was a casualty of it. In that world, revenge is going to come and hit you. I end my point there.
What about you?
I agree that Joel had it. He had it coming to him. The storyline is such that, yeah, he did a lot of things that weren't apparent in the first game because they haven't gone back that far, and the game hasn't gone back that far. It's only been 2 iterations to the game so far, so they haven't had one that goes before Last of Us 1 to tell what Joel's actually doing. And I'm sure at some point we'll get one of those throwback games where they'll tell the story before what happened in The Last of Us before Last of Us 1. I'm sure we'll get one of those. Sooner or later, we'll get one of those backstories. But it's not, I'm not so jaded on what happened to Joel. I'm fine. I'm not so. It's a good thing. I think that's a good thing in video games where we're actually growing up and we're having adult situations in video games. I'm more concerned with how we're handling it as a community, as a video game community, and how as a community, when we don't like something, we want to change it, and how the studios are bending to it. And we've seen that time and time again, where studios get afraid because of some content they put in the game or whatever, and then there's some uproar on the internet about it, and they go back and they change it, or they apologize, for their creations, and I don't feel like they should be apologizing for their creations, and I feel like we should take their stories for what they are, good, bad, or ugly. But in terms of just to finish off Joel's thing, I think it was a good move on Last of Us part and the studio's part to go that route. I think the story was made for Ellie. I don't think that this was not a story about Joel. This wasn't a story about him. If they wanted to leave him in there, it would have been fine, but it's not a story about him. The story is about Ellie.
How is it not a
and it
story
always
about
was about
Joel
Ellie.
if the first and second Last of Us storyline heavily depended on their relationship? And now you kind of sort of remove that relationship in the beginning, not in the half of the game, not in the third quarter part of the game. You actually remove that aspect of their relationship straight off the back in the beginning. You don't think that'll raise some type of
progress? I feel like it's progress. They did the same thing with Joel's daughter. They kill her in the first 5 minutes of the game. We don't know anything about Joel's daughter.
To do that in order to bring in Ellie. You got to understand, you can't have Joel's daughter around and Ellie's daughter around. That story will be nonsensical. It will be chaotic. So the fact that Joel's daughter was removed in the beginning, that brought up stage right for Ellie to have an entry. So Joel's daughter can exit stage left. You understand what I'm saying? That had to happen for Ellie to come in. So you're telling me the fact that Joel's exit in the beginning was excusable?
Yeah. If he can go with how strong of a character Ellie is, Joel is a side character. Ellie is the main protagonist. Nope. He's a very strong character within the game. And he started off what would be Ellie's game. He started it off, but it's not his game. It clearly was not about him. It's about Ellie.
How much video games divert from realism? Don't you think realism is a bit too much when it comes to some aspects of the game? Like, reality does play a part. I understand. I mean, real life situations do happen, but do you actually want to put those real life situations in a video game that can possibly kill a trilogy? And I think The Last of Us is on its way to doing that, don't you think? Now that Joel is gone, how many gamers have removed themselves from The Last of Us now? You lost half an audience.
All right.
I mean, any of you guys can dive in.
All right. Just to, piggyback a bit on what Prodigal Son actually, stated. Joel going in the beginning was a bold / controversial move. Only thing is, in order to have an integral story, sometimes something controversial does need to happen. What I will say when it comes to that is, I would say the pacing on how it was presented to us was the way that, I don't want to say mistake, because I still say it was a great game and a great story. It was just the fact of how it was given to us. The package deal basically wasn't given to us in the best Christmas gift wrap. It really wasn't. What should have happened was Joel's death should have been there as far as him and it happening. But we should have actually gotten one episode from Ellie, day one episode from Abby, day one, of basically building a Chinese staircase to the culmination of the event of Joel's death. So that way people could actually see and understand Abby's motivation, but also Ellie's motivation at the same time. And also to, once again, which Prodigal Son actually said, part 2 is not Joel's game. So him dying was actually warranted and actually should have happened. Many people want to, excuse themselves from the game, which is their opinion. Rightfully so. I can't tell a person how and when to exit. But if you want a real life story, basically what you said, Shaka, you want a real life story, There's going to be some uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable deaths that we don't want, a la Walking Dead, that they did stuff like that as well. It has to push the story further. That's a gripping, riveting, and sort of real life situation that can happen.
I can understand that, but what if I want to escape reality for a bit? What if I want to get away from reality because things in my personal life ain't going on so well, and I want to play this video game that I've fallen in love with 2 characters that mean so much to me. All of a sudden, you make a sequel out of those same 2 characters, and you kill off one of them right off the back in the beginning. Because I'm gonna let you guys understand, I was almost basically agreeing with a lot of the majority, but now I'm downright down the middle. I understand why the people didn't want Joel dying that immediate in the series, and I understand the people who want to escape reality and don't want to deal with the situations in reality when it comes to a damn video game. You want to come to a video game and experience, I don't know, happy times. You know what I mean? So when all of a sudden you come into the video game and there's also dramatic and a lost experience in a video game, now you're like, well, I can't escape realism at all. So
look at here. If you don't wanna escape realism, I'm happy for you. Go play Nintendo. You heard? I'm just saying, Lord. What are we talking about right now? I want experience. I'm an adult now. I was in that era. Like I said, old school gamer. I'm from that era where we played the side scrollers and all of that. And that was fine for that era when I was that. Now, I want to play something adult. I want to play something that has sex, guns, and violence in it. So I want to play something that has sex, guns, and violence in it. Somebody might get pregnant, shot, or die. Sound make sense to you?
It does make sense, but I mean, I think, like I said, I'm down the middle. I think it could have happened in the 3rd game. I think if you would have made Joe die in the 3rd game, it kind of would have made more sense. And also, if you would have made it happen in a way that people can see it coming. Like when people can see, okay, Joe's about to be outed. But you have to admit that was kind of immediate in the second Last of Us. That death was just out of nowhere. And unfortunately, it was leaked upon us. A lot of us found out before the game even got released. Maybe if the game was released and none of us knew what was going to happen, obviously the impact would have been even more dramatic, because we're like, holy shit, I didn't even know this was going to happen. Joe died like that. I think it kind of would have been worse. I think it kind of cushioned the fall for a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, the Joe's death really make the Last of Us storyline suffer. And in my opinion, for fans and for the diversity that's been happening, it kind of did. You know what I mean? Kind of did. And I think that now Ellie has to carry the whole trilogy on her own, which is, from what you guys are saying, was her job in the first place. But I think Joel held a special place for everybody. I think Joel kind of brought a different animal to it. Ellie was the delicate flower, and Joel was the how can I say, the ringleader, the lion. You know what I mean? And now that Ellie has to be both, I don't know, it's troubling times for The Last of Us right now. The diversity is crazy, and I think deaths in video games, especially when it deals with protagonists, like, we can go to another route. I believe it's so diverse that a lot of things can't be explained, because I'm saying this, but at the same time, I'm thinking that Wesker's death in Resident Evil was awful. It's like, I think Wesker's death in Resident Evil really killed the series. I really think that. But at the same time, I'm saying Joel's death was kind of a detriment to the story. I mean, it's almost the same thing, but you guys get what I'm saying. I mean, it was almost a confusion.
I don't think it was a detriment to the story, only in the fact that that people thought it was. I think if people didn't think it was, it wouldn't be. Because I think people thinking they just reading too much into it. You got to understand that this is like the Mass Effect thing all over again. This is not your story. It's not your story. You didn't write the story. You didn't have nothing to do with the story. You're enjoying the story. Well, you're a participant in the way that they want you to be because it's a video game. So they have to have you participate in the story. But you're not guiding the story. The story has a beginning, a middle, and an end that's going to stay the same no matter what you do. No matter what you do, you can only get what they created. So I can't understand why we can't, as a community, enjoy what people created and see that it's an art form, and what they created was what they created, and how they created is how they created it, and this is what it is. And either love it or hate it, fine, but don't try to change it. Don't try to change it.
Well, I mean,
all right.
What happened, Dream?
All right. There's something that also what both of you said that I'm gonna touch on when it comes to this answer your question, Black Shaka, that you did ask. Do I believe it was too early? I mean, as I said earlier, the pacing I thought was a bit, discombobulated a bit to spare us the amount of shock. But then again, think about it this way: in today's day and age, what brings more sales? What brings more looks to you? Controversy. Let's be honest. Joel Death dying early gets your game talked about, gets your game riveted, gets your game in discussions. Forums are being made because of this. So when I think about it, Naughty Dog actually did a risky move, but also that risky move allowed them to get Game of the Year. Let's be for real, because of what happened. The object of a game developer or producer is to get your game to be critical acclaim in some way. The fact that your game needs to be talked about. Now,
the only thing you can't predict controversy. Controversy just happens depending on your mind of diversity.
True.
Subject.
But you're playing a game. It's a dangerous game. You're rolling dice at the end of the day. So you have to bank on the human mind going, this is so bad that I want to talk about it, but I want to get my friend to talk about it too. Honestly, you got to play that game. When you're in the business, you got to play that game. The odds are probably stacked against you, but that's how you win big. That's how you win big. Now, I'm going to end it with this. Honestly, Joe's death in this one will bring, it has had made people split down the middle, but also, as I stated earlier, this second game was a cycle of revenge, but Joe's death with the third game could bring a full circle of the cycle of forgiveness. It could actually do. It's a long shot. It's a Randy Johnson fastball, but it's something that can happen.
Forgiveness already happened in the end of The Last of Us 2, don't you think? When he had the opportunity to kill Abby, he didn't go forward.
Now, the cycle of forgiveness will begin. The cycle of forgiveness has begun for Ellie doing it. But again, we're human beings, so yes, she could forgive her and just not do it. But people have lingering feelings still on how to go about continuing. So what I mean by the cycle of forgiveness, which is, Abby has to forgive Joel ultimately in her mind of killing her father. When I say the cycle of forgiveness, Ellie's already started, but now Abby's has to finish. Abby has to come to terms with maybe throughout a journey in Last of Us 3, maybe she has to go through a journey. Whereas she's coming to realize things on the outside, other people doing certain things that might have been similar to Joel, but now she's sympathizing like, dang, this kind of happened to me, but I see where you're coming from. Remember, it's always easy to now see the other side of a blanket when you're not covered by it.
It's
so that's forgiveness.
Indeed.
I can definitely sympathize with what you just said. I can definitely see where you're going with this. I mean, Can The Last of Us recover? Can The Last of Us recover in the third game? No matter how the story goes. Like, let's say, can everybody actually adapt to Abby? I mean,
Mhm.
we're gonna touch on Abby right now, and it's not gonna be long for you guys who are joining us. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button so far. We're into this topic about can protagonist deaths cause the doom of a trilogy, of a video game, or whatever you like, whether it's a story, a movie, whatever the case may be. About Abby, how do you guys feel about Abby? I mean, honestly, after what she did, how do you guys sincerely feel about Abby? And I'm not talking about, and before I even dive into Abby, by all means, keep it respectful down in the comments. I do not want to see she looks like a woman slash man. She looks like we all know what Abby looks like, but we also gotta respect, you know, we also gotta respect the fact that there are trans females out there, etc. We gotta respect their livelihoods. We gotta respect their decisions, and we gotta respect their looks. We're not gonna judge anybody's looks here. You understand what I'm saying? When I say, what do you feel about Abby? I mean, how do you feel about what she just did? Can you actually get to the point that you can actually sympathize with this character and actually fall in love with this character?
Well, let me say first off, from just reaching back to the last point, I think that The Last of Us is in a great space, and they've done a great job at advertising themselves and putting themselves out there in a place where they're being talked about. Like Brian makes a great point, where the forums are on fire. Forums are on fire about it for months, about Last of Us. And you only have that when you have a great game in front of some type of controversy like that. You're not going to have that type of controversy or that type of talk around a game that nobody cares about. They don't care about this game. There's no fire around it. The story's not gripping you, grabbing you. Who cares about any of that other stuff? Who cares? Nobody cares. But the fact that they have a gripping storyline, and then you kill somebody off from it that's already beloved in one game, has become so beloved that it sets the internet on fire. That's you doing something out there, and you doing some of the right things. And I think Naughty Dog is, I think they're, truthfully speaking, I'm thinking they're more, I don't know what the studio looks like in terms of women and men, but it seems like it's being skewed a little toward women over there. Like, they like women over there. They like.
I mean, we all like ladies, though.
They like. No, I'm just saying. They got a different feeling about them, though. You know what I'm saying?
But there's a lot of things in Naughty Dog. There's a lot of situations in Naughty Dog that there's another situation in Naughty Dog that I don't even want to even discuss, because it's just so controversial. It's just so diverse that it's just gonna get out of hand. And I definitely agree with you guys. Controversy does sell. And believe it or not, for you guys who disagree with what Naughty Dog did, controversy is right in their game to platinum, period. Whether you like it or not, the controversy is right in their game to platinum. And whether you brought the game and gave it back doesn't matter. They already got your money in their pocket. You brought the game. Doesn't matter if you traded it. I mean, you brought the game. But as far as Abby is concerned, I did fall in love with Abby. I did kind of sympathize with her. It was thrown into my face for the fact that I had to deal with her immediately after what she did. They basically thrown you in the hands of this character that just brutalized one of the characters that you fell in love with. And now you have to play with her. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to play with this character if you want to see the rest of the story. So when I was playing with Abby, and I seen what she went through, and I see the revenge that took over her emotionally, and even it took it took over her even physically, because then she made herself fit in order to face whatever obstacle she had to face to accomplish what he had to accomplish. And I fell in love with her. I'm not gonna lie. I fell in love with her. And I'm not gonna lie, she was better to play with than Ellie. She had better moves. I mean, let's be honest. She had better moves. So in terms of that, I fell in love with Abby. And I mean, you know, like, I mean, even Frank, if you want to up on this more, I mean, did Abby grow on you? I mean,
me, I'm not gonna lie to you. You basically said it best. Imagine all of a sudden, you know, you're playing the game, and all of a sudden, you see your beloved character get killed, and you're playing as a killer. Like, here, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You want me to like this person? I'm gonna make them die every time, just for the simple fact they killed Joe. Again, the beginning was hard for every player. I can't say every player because I don't want to speak for every player. A lot of players who complained it was hard to grab the controller and go, I'm getting shot by every person, by every click is getting a bite off you. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But I will admit, Abby did grow on me. It took a little bit, only due to the pacing, which I covered earlier, so I don't want to read it. I don't need to, repeat that. In actuality, if you actually look, and this is why I say Last of Us actually is critically acclaimed for a reason, if you are a logical thinker and a critical thinker, and even a person who understands a storyline, you have to put yourself in her shoes at least once and realize the world that she lives in is cutthroat anyway. It's cutthroat. Yes. Were the Fireflies as a whole trying to do something good? Yes, they actually were. When you think about it, they were actually trying to make a cure for everybody. They were trying to do what the CDC in this world tries to do all the time, trying to make a cure. By whatever means that they could and whatever. Did Joe know that he was a doctor and stuff like that? Yes, he did. Joe made a selfish decision and stuff like that. If you think about it, Joe made a selfish decision. His selfish decision we don't know about Last of Us 3, but his selfish decision right now dooms humanity as of right now. Only because of his father-daughter complex that he had.
I'm glad you touched on that. That's absolutely 100%.
Wait. Let me get in here. Let me get in here before you continue. And let me first apologize to anybody that might be offended, but I'm sorry. Ellie looked like her daddy. I'm sorry. She looked like her daddy. And it is what it is. Like, she looked like her daddy. She got you. They didn't show his face, but I can't imagine she looked like any other man than her father. I can't imagine. Because she got some muscular features.
Abby.
She got some muscular features.
Abby. It's about Abby.
Yes, Abby. Who'd I say?
I'm like, Ellie.
You said Ellie.
I said Ellie? No, not Ellie. No. Abby. Abby. Man, listen. She definitely. Abby. She definitely looked like her daddy. That's for sure. But I fell in love with her because they fleshed out her storyline. They let you know why she's doing what she's doing. You killed my dad, my dude. You killed my dad. I don't give a fuck about humanity. You kill my dad. And she believes her dad is trying to save humanity herself. So the fact that she killed him goes against the grain. Off the rip. It goes against the grain. But just as a one-on-one, you kill my father. I don't care. You done here. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. You're not even thinking about humanity, You kill my dad, son. Like, I'm out for you. Now, when I see you, it's on sight. Right?
I mean,
it's on sight.
No, absolutely. When it comes to realism, I'm gonna say realism. When it comes to realism, shit like that happens. When you do something, karma is a bitch, and it's gonna come hunting for you. And to me, to me, you can't hide from karma. Karma has no limit. Can't hide from karma. And I knew when that scene, when they grabbed Joel up and Joel looked at Abby's face and he couldn't recognize her worth a damn, he realized that I must have done something to this girl in the past that's caused her to seek me out. And that's why he said, yo, just do your worst and get it over with. Because he knew he wasn't a good guy all his life. He knew that. So he knew karma finally found me and I'm about to get got. And that's what happened to him. And I want to touch up on what Brian said, which is definitely 100% true. Joe was selfish, 100% selfish. That I have to agree with. I'm a logical thinker. Joe was very selfish by allowing Ellie not to be sacrificed for the cure. To me, The Last of Us could have ended in part 1. The Last of Us could have been finalized if Ellie went through with that procedure. But obviously everybody, like I said in the beginning, wants to escape reality and say, well, I want to be selfish. I want Ellie to survive all the time. Well, if you want humanity to live, then Ellie has to be sacrificed. And I think, almost to top it off, I think Last of Us 3 is going to be about redemption. I think Ellie is going to right all the wrongs that Joel did. And she's going to sacrifice herself for that cure. And unfortunately, it's going to be kind of a double-edged sword because it's almost going to make everything what Joe did in part 1 wrong. You know what I mean? Other than the fact of him protecting her and stuff like that and him getting her to the Fireflies. But I'm talking about the part when he rescued her from the hospital, despite it being so dramatic, so dynamic, so loving and everything like that. And I mean, all of us in part 1, no matter what we thought, we wanted Joel to rescue Ellie at that point. All of us was hoping for that to happen. And for us logical thinkers out there, and I don't even want to say logical thinkers because I do respect everybody's opinions. But for all of us who want to think that way, Ellie had to be sacrificed. She should have died in part 1. And look how many people are dying now that didn't take place. All the lives that are being offed for the simple fact that Ellie's life wasn't expendable in part 1. But yeah, it goes to show what revenge does. And it goes to show why redemption in The Last of Us Part 3 has to be the topic. But once again, I really thank the people that joined me for this podcast. We got Drano, we got Frank, and best believe Drano is gonna come out with his tube, and you're gonna see Frank soon coming out with his, and it's gonna go from there. You're gonna see them very soon. But before we leave, for real, one last question for you guys.
Wait, right before you get to the question, there's one thing I do want to add with something you said really quick. I'm gonna trim the fat and cut it. You said you believe the third part should be redemption. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. That it should be a redemption arc. The one way, just in case other people may come on and say, oh, it wasn't selfish because Joel tried to save a life. Yes, you could probably say that, but Last of Us 2 did confirm that whole selfish thing because Ellie actually didn't mind. Actually, is confirmation that Joel was selfish to do that because Ellie wouldn't have mind. Because remember, she was under the knife, and the census was, oh, how do you know she would do it if she was conscious? Ellie in part 2 confirmed that my life meant something. My life would have meant something, which means she wouldn't have mind. Now, the third part, redemption, could actually be for Joel. If you really think about it, hear me out.
All right, go
hear
ahead.
me
I
out.
disagree already, but go ahead.
It could be a redemption arc for Joel, because remember, what if? Now this is the story. What if?
Let me throw it out there. He's dead though. How
Yes.
He be dead?
Okay, his actions. Okay, now think about it like this. What if? Yes, in part 2 is showing that doctor could have is a possibility for a vaccine, right? It didn't say absolute certainty. It said a possibility, a good possibility for a vaccine. What if Joe saving her at that young age was the right call because the cordyceps did not fully 100% take over the part for 100% makings for a vaccine, which means it would have to fester in her brain longer. It would fester in her brain longer and stick around to mature for when she's a grown adult, maybe a few years later, where when she sacrificed herself is 100% certain that what Joel did, even though in the beginning it was selfish. Remember, we're talking about an arc, a story. In the beginning, selfish. In the second time, it's like, God damn, this caught up to him. But in the third time, you know what? Yes, some people had to die. It was an unfortunate road for Abby and Ellie. But damn, Joel actually did his actions unknowingly were the reason why there's a cure later on. What if they do it like that?
Wow. That's going really around the horn. You reach in there, it would, I mean, it works. The formula works. But will people buy it? Will people reach? I don't know if people will grab it.
That don't mean you gotta be bored. I just threw it out there.
I'm not sure if people will reach that. I'm not saying that it's a far reach, but I don't know if people will make that connection.
It is a far reach, but it is a far reach. But it's all about, if they're willing to go that route. Because as Black Shire did say, and they kind of against the wall anyway. They kind of against the, believe it or not, to bring out this story, they got to make it make sense. So I'm just threw out an idea.
And that's true.
Indeed.
I think the narrative that you just brought up, it makes sense when you want to bring the whole community together and have everybody feel like they were right. Like, everybody who says Joe's death was wrong and everybody who says Joe's death was right. Because everybody who says Joe's actions was wrong and right, etc. and so forth. But the thing is, I understand what you're saying, and I do believe the prodigal son hit it on the nose. He's like, it is a far reach because a lot of people are not going to be able to connect the dots because it's too complicated. And that's why you basically saying that narrative, it is complex and it's interesting the fact that you brought up such a complex theory and where the story should go, because that complex is not going to reach a lot of people. And I'm not trying to say a lot of people are not smart. It's just a lot of people are not going to dive that deep into it. They're just going to see, well, then why he didn't do that on the third? You know what I mean? That's all they're looking at. They're not going to look at, well, look at that. Joe's action actually saved Ellie because she would have died on that surgery bed because the cure wasn't actually achievable at that point. They're not going to dive that deep. All they're going to say is, listen, Joe did the right thing, he said. That's all they're going to say. You know what I mean? But that complex theory is very, and I think that would be a way for Naughty Dog to reach everybody.
I mean, it would be, like I said, it would be interesting, but it would be, well, from a father's standpoint, he sees Ellie, well, that's not her father, but he's playing her father per se. So to see Ellie on that table about to go under the knife, his conjecture is to go save her. Like, oh, you're gonna kill her to save the world. That was what was being, that was the premise. So in his mind, he's saving his daughter, per se, or he's saving Ellie. So he's not thinking with foresight. He's not thinking down the line. You know what I'm saying? He's just thinking about the right now. And that's realness, because that's what people would be thinking. You wouldn't be thinking, if your daughter was on that table, you're not thinking 5 years down. You're not thinking nothing. You're thinking about your daughter that's on that table. Okay? So in that sense, that's realism.
Yep. And that's what a lot of people are going to be thinking. They're going to be thinking just like that. They're like, I don't want to hear your damn theory about if there's a possible cure, there'll possibly not a cure when he's about to save her or not. Joe's not thinking that. Joe is like, yo, she's about to get stabbed. I got to save her. That's all he's thinking about. You know what I mean? So for people to actually dive into the fact that there was possibly a cure and not a cure at that time. So he actually did the right. No, they're not thinking that. They're just thinking about the right now. And
No, but what he's saying is viable,
oh
and they
yeah,
could
oh
go that route.
absolutely. But that's why that complexity right there that he mentioned. If anybody want to rewind and listen to it again, because I believe it is that complex and that interesting. Because that's such a good touch on the story of Naughty Dog is able to accomplish. Because if Naughty Dog is able to push that boundary and actually add that to the story, it kind of satisfies everybody's appetite. Because everybody can say they were right. You know what I mean? Everybody can say, "Hey, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't. And me either. Oh, I
He did.
tried." You know.
He did.
Everybody would be happy.
I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know.
Exactly. You know,
I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's down the middle. You say it's down the middle.
Exactly. But then again, okay, that's one way that, once again, a story where you could go, yo, man, I was mad at you, but I didn't know your full vision. Like, how often do we get mad at stuff and go, oh man, I didn't know you were thinking 5 some odd times ahead. That's why you did this. That's why you did that. That's why, well, basically, you eloquently said, you basically, did the punchline for it. Everybody's happy. At the end of the day, Naughty Dog made us happy, going, yo, man, we saved Ellie. They made us mad by going, damn, you killed Joe kind of early, but go, oh, that was your end game. That was your Avengers end game right there. We didn't see it because we were so fixated on you off this character so early. No. It's like, okay, storyline as a way of, as y'all said, if thinking of father-daughter, that's my daughter on it. Forget if there's a 90% cure. You're not taking it. I get it. Just like the world, a lot of the world would think that. And then part 2, again, it goes with the whole cycle of, revenge and what it can do. But then, I like the whole redemption. That's what made me think about that. The whole redemption, and everything making sense, even though it's out of our hands and it's form of luck. That's why I said I threw it as Joel actually being right, even though he didn't know he was right because he was doing it for a selfish reason. But it ended up being the right thing to do. Down the line is a redemption of some sort. Like, oh, you know what? Even though at that point in time, as a father, I understand and stuff like that, and so on. He did actually make the right call unknowingly. What's a better way of a great outcome without knowing it's going to be a great outcome? That's the best. That's the best way to tell a story.
I think Naughty Dog has a real wrangle on that tightrope between realism and fantasy, and they keep like jumping back and forth across it. You know what I'm saying? They jumping back and forth from realism to fantasy, realism, fantasy, and they blend it, and then they start blending them blind, and I think they do a great job with that shit, man. I really think they do. I think they do a great job with it.
I think to cap off our podcast, I think that Naughty Dog they did a great job by causing diversity and controversy to push their game forward. That I can agree. And I think they have a real road ahead with The Last of Us Part 3. They have a real difficult road ahead with The Last of Us Part 3. But as we all may know, we'll never experience it until we play the games. You got to give it that opportunity, despite your controversy towards their trilogy that's about to end. Who knows when? Because who knows when The Last of Us 3 is gonna come about? But anyway, either way, that was our freaking opinion about the topic. Make sure you leave your opinions down under the topic, and like I said, keep it respectful. We got Drano, got his Factivism, that's his other name on the box live, whatever. I'm sorry, Frank, I had to put your other name out there. I'm telling you, you're the man with a lot of identity.
It's all good. I dig it.
But yes, we're gonna reach on another topic. We're gonna, like I said, this is I'm Black Shy Guy. I'm gonna be touching on other topics on the podcast with these guys. Our next topic is gonna be pretty interesting, so you might want to tune in. It's gonna be interesting. But anyway, this is Black Shy Guy. Thanks for sitting at my table. Me, Drano, and Frank. Man, we out of here. Peace.
Yeah.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good